All right, everyone. So this is going to be the course overview. Now, granted, okay, it takes more than 5 steps to actually buy a property. Now, in this case, listed below this course, I've written out every single step for you to acquire your first property. The thing, though, is essentially when you look at every single step, you basically can divide them into 5 different categories. And each category there's a chronological order to them. So we'll go ahead and go over the first step, which basically is, in this case, we're going to prime your deal. The first step is priming your deal is that like before you even buy a property, you have to get your financial house in order. That includes like finding a lender, finding an insurance agent, finding a real estate agent, setting up your portal, find the property, run an income analysis, and then contact the agent to place a bid. And that's basically the first step of purchasing a property. Step number 2 is going to be place an offer and initiate the deal. In this series of steps, we're basically going to contact our agent, tell them how you want to place the offer, wait for the seller to accept your offer, tell title that you have an accepted offer, send the earnest money to title, and then you want to schedule the inspection and the inspector to go initiate the inspection immediately. So that's basically step 2. And then for the most part, here is step 3. We're going to basically negotiate and close the deal. So from here, this is where we decide and work with the seller on terms of um, the BINSR, what needs to happen, and is the seller willing to negotiate on any current defects? What is the appraisal? Did it come below or above asking? And then basically when we close the deal, that's when we tell the utility companies when we're moving in, setting all that up. And then on the last day, we're going to close of escrow. That's when we walk the lot and make sure everything is done right. And we sign the closing documents. So when we close the deal, that's technically when we acquire the property. But let's not forget, we're only halfway through and there's still 2 more steps. Step number 4, we're going to update or renovate the property. So after we close the deal in step 3, step 4 is basically like, hey, this is where we get the property ready for business. And this is where we talk about in the renovation pillar or the renovator pillar, where basically, hey, you know what? Do we need to renovate the property or can we update it? And can we update it in a way where we can attract high quality tenants? And remember, when I say high quality tenants, I specifically mean people who are going to be faithful in taking care of the property and making sure they pay rent on time. So that's the most important step. And then remember, in order for us to offer value by updating the property, and there's a key distinction in updating versus renovating. In this case, I would assume that we want to make as much money as possible, but we want to also be quick. So I believe for the most part is just simply updating the property is probably the route in which most of the students will go. Once we eventually go to property number 2, number 3, that's when you'll be more confident and you'll probably want to renovate up front. That way you can just enjoy long-term passive income. Okay, so once the property is ready to be rented out, we're going to go ahead and move on to step number 5. And step number 5 is the market and lease to the tenant. Now, obviously, we have to close a property first, then we have to update it and prepare it for business. And then from there, once the property is ready, the last step, number 5, is to market and lease to a tenant. Now, this is where basically once the construction is done, you got to clean the unit that you want, clean the unit out, take photos from a professional photographer, write down a persuasive description. Then you're going to list the property with the photos that you've captured and market it on Zillow and Craigslist. Then after that, every tenant's going to go through an application process. You're going to have the tenant sign the lease. Then you're going to have the tenant transfer the utilities to their name. And then after they get the utilities in their name is when you give them the keys. At that moment, that's it. Once they are moved in, month after month, they'll be sending you rent payments. And that's it in a nutshell. And we're going to go over every single one of these steps more thoroughly, but that's essentially the overview for the remainder of this module.